Your mother-in-law's dress looks like she bought it at a discount store, Madison laughed, champagne flute in hand, unaware I stood 3 feet behind her at my own son's wedding reception. The Valentino gown I wore, custom-fitted and understated, had cost more than most people's cars, but I'd learned long ago that real wealth whispered while new money screamed. What she didn't know was that the very champagne she sipped, the crystalline flute she held, and the Italian marble beneath her designer heels all bore my signature on the payment receipts. We wanted someone with connections, she continued to her circle of sorority sisters. Not a nobody's mother. I adjusted my Oliver Peoples sunglasses, necessary even indoors after my recent eye surgery, and felt Sophia, the wedding planner, materialize at my elbow like a well-trained shadow. Mrs. Winters, she whispered urgently, should I mention you paid the entire? No, I murmured, watching my new daughter-in-law hold court. Let her finish. Madison tossed her professionally styled blonde hair, the one that had cost $1,200 at the salon I'd recommended. I mean, she seems sweet enough, but Benjamin could have married into the Astors or the Vanderbilts. Instead, he chose love. She made air quotes around the word love, and her friends tittered obligingly. What does she even do? Asked a redhead wearing too much bronzer. Something with buildings? Ben was very vague. Probably a secretary at some construction company. Madison lowered her voice conspiratorially. I had to give her the name of my personal shopper. The poor thing showed up to the engagement party in off-the-rack Nordstrom. I smiled behind my champagne glass. Dom Perignon 1996, from my personal cellar. The off-the-rack Nordstrom had been a deliberate choice. I'd learned that nothing revealed character quite like giving someone the opportunity to underestimate you. Ladies, a familiar voice interrupted. Margaret Pemberton, Old Money Philadelphia, glided into their circle with the kind of authority that came from 5 generations of mainline breeding. Madison, darling, I've been meaning to ask, how did you manage to book the Rainbow Room? There's a 5-year waiting list. Madison preened. Oh, connections. My father knows people. Margaret's laugh tinkled like crystal. How interesting. Because I'm on the board, and I saw the booking myself. Eleanor Winters secured it. 18 months ago. The silence stretched like spun sugar, ready to shatter. That must be a mistake, Madison stammered. No mistake. She also donated $2 million to have the private terrace renovated specifically for this event. We're calling it the Winters Terrace now. There's a plaque and everything. I chose that moment to approach, removing my sunglasses despite the light sensitivity. Margaret, lovely to see you. Eleanor. She air-kissed me warmly. I was just telling your daughter-in-law how generous you've been. The Children's Hospital Foundation is still buzzing about your donation last month. Madison had gone the color of her champagne. Mrs. Winters, please call me Eleanor. I smiled warmly, genuinely. Despite everything, I loved my son, and if he loved this girl, I would find a way to love her too. Madison, your friends look thirsty. Should we get more champagne? I'll call the server. No need. I raised a finger, and 3 servers appeared as if summoned by magic. They always did when you own the catering company. Sophia approached again, this time with an iPad. Mrs. Winters, the fireworks team needs final approval for the display. And the Vienna Philharmonic Quartet is asking about the special piece you requested. Vienna Philharmonic? The redhead's mouth dropped open. The actual Vienna Philharmonic? Just 4 members, I said modestly. They owed me a favor after I sponsored their North American tour. Madison, I hope you don't mind. I know how you love Pachelbel's canon. Madison's friends exchanged glances that could have been read from space. One by one, they found excuses to drift away. Powder room, catching up with college friends, admiring the 10-tier cake that had been flown in from Paris. Alone with me for the first time since the ceremony, Madison seemed to shrink inside her $30,000 Vera Wang gown. The one I'd quietly paid for when her father's check bounced. I should find Ben, she said weakly. He's in the library with his father, discussing the surprise. I sipped my champagne calmly. Though I suppose it won't be a surprise now. What surprise? The wedding gift. The house in Greenwich. 15 bedrooms, bit excessive really, but it has the most beautiful rose garden. I thought you might enjoy it, given your degree in landscape architecture. Her face crumpled. How did you? I never told anyone about that. I studied business. You studied business because your father insisted. But your senior thesis on sustainable garden design was brilliant. Professor Morrison at Yale sent it to me. We serve on a board together. I don't understand. Why didn't you say anything? When I was being so, she gestured helplessly at the space where her friends had stood. I set down my glass and took her hands. They were trembling. Because, my dear, I needed to know who you really were. And now I do. You must hate me. On the contrary, you're exactly what my son needs. Her eyes widened. I just humiliated you in front of. You tried to, I corrected gently. There's a difference. You're young, insecure, trying to fit into a world you think values pedigree over character. But you're wrong about that world, Madison. The real one, the one that matters, values authenticity. But I called you a nobody. I laughed, surprising us both. My dear girl, I've been called worse by better. When I started my company 30 years ago with nothing but a drafting table and determination, the Old Boys Club called me everything but a lady. Now I own the largest sustainable development firm in the country. Buildings? Yes, I work with buildings. I build them. Hundreds of them. Including the one we're standing in. Madison's knees seemed to give out. I guided her to a chair, signaling for water. The Rainbow Room? She whispered. I own the entire complex. Also the hotel where your parents are staying, the country club where you had your bridal shower, and... I paused, enjoying this perhaps more than I should. The company where your father works. He's quite good at his job, by the way. That's why I promoted him last year. Oh my God. She buried her face in her hands. Oh my God, I'm going to be sick. No, you're not. You're going to drink this water, touch up your makeup, and go dance with your husband. Then tomorrow, we're going to have lunch, and you're going to tell me about your real dreams. Not the ones your father chose for you. Why? She looked up at me with mascara-smudged eyes. Why are you being so kind when I was so awful? Because I was you once. Young, scared, trying so hard to be what everyone expected that I forgot to be myself. It took me years to realize that the only approval that mattered was my own. I handed her my handkerchief, vintage Hermes, a gift from my mother. And because you make my son happy. Really happy. I haven't seen him smile like that since his father died. At the mention of James, we both glanced toward the memorial table, where his portrait smiled back at us. 5 years gone, and I still reached for him in the morning. Ben talks about him all the time, Madison said softly. How he built things with his hands. How you two started the company together in your garage. While I was pregnant with Ben, James would work construction during the day and draft plans with me at night. We had nothing but each other and a shared dream. I smiled at the memory. Rather like you and Ben, actually. He told me about your midnight sessions, planning your sustainable community project. You know about that? I know my son, and I know he wouldn't have married someone who was only interested in his trust fund. I touched her shoulder gently. Though speaking of trust funds, there's something you should know. She tensed. Ben doesn't have one. What? Oh, he'll inherit the company someday if he wants it. But James and I agreed, no trust funds. No safety nets. If our children wanted success, they'd have to build it themselves. Ben's salary at the environmental nonprofit? That's all him. The awards, the recognition, the difference he's making, that's all him. Madison stared at me. But everyone thinks. Everyone thinks a lot of things. Ben let them think it because he wanted to find someone who loved him for him. Seems he succeeded. I do love him, she said fiercely. I know I seem shallow and horrible, but I love him so much it scares me. That's why she gestured helplessly. I wanted so badly to be good enough for him. You are. But Madison, next time you want to insult someone at a party, maybe check who's standing behind you first. Despite everything, she laughed, a watery but genuine sound. Noted. Mrs. Winters? Sophia appeared again, ever present. The Vienna Quartet is ready, and Mr. Benjamin is looking for his bride. I stood, offering Madison my hand. Shall we? I believe they're about to play your song. She took my hand, then impulsively hugged me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be better. That's all any of us can do. I pulled back to look at her. Now, let's go show those sorority sisters what a real partnership looks like. As we walked back to the reception, Madison whispered, The house in Greenwich. Were you serious? Deadly serious. 15 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and a greenhouse perfect for someone with a degree in landscape architecture. Consider it a laboratory for your sustainable garden designs. But that must cost. The price of seeing my son happy? Priceless. The actual cost? Let's just say I've made some good investments over the years. We found Ben by the dance floor, his face lighting up at the sight of his bride. He had his father's eyes, warm and honest, and his smile could still undo me. "Mom." He kissed my cheek, then noticed Madison's smudged makeup. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," Madison said, squeezing my hand. "Your mother and I were just getting to know each other better." Finally, he beamed. "I've been wanting my two favorite women to really connect." The Vienna Quartet began to play. Not Pachelbel's canon, but James's favorite piece, the one he'd hummed while building our first house. I blinked back tears. "Dance with your wife," I told Ben. "I'll be right here." As they swayed together on the dance floor I'd paid for, in the building I owned, surrounded by flowers I'd chosen, I felt James's presence. He would have loved this. The secret philanthropist act, the dramatic reveal, the look on Madison's face when she realized her nobody mother-in-law was somebody after all. But more than that, he would have loved Madison herself. Because beneath the insecurity and the designer labels was a girl who loved our son, who had dreams bigger than her father's expectations, who would learn, as I had. That real power came not from connections but from connection. Sophia appeared once more. "The Times photographer wants a family photo, Mrs. Winters. For the Sunday Styles section." "Of course." I smoothed my discount store dress that wasn't, prepared to play the nobody mother-in-law one more time for the cameras. But Madison had other ideas. She broke away from Ben, grabbed my hand, and pulled me onto the dance floor. "Dance with us," she said, loud enough for her sorority sisters to hear. "This is my mother-in-law, Eleanor Winters. She built half of Manhattan, funds 3 children's hospitals, and," she grinned wickedly, "she has connections that make the Astas look like nobodies." "Madison," I warned, but I was smiling. "What?" "I'm proud to have married into your family. Ben's not the only one who got lucky today." And as the Vienna Philharmonic played and my son laughed and my new daughter spun me around the dance floor, I thought about connections, real ones. Not the society kind that Madison's friends valued, but the kind that built companies in garages and dreams in drafting rooms and families in the most unexpected ways. "Thank you," Madison whispered as the music swelled. "For everything. The wedding, the house, but mostly for giving me a chance to be better." "We all deserve that chance," I said, thinking of a young woman with a drafting table and a dream, who'd married a construction worker with calloused hands and gentle eyes. That's what family is for. The photographer captured us like that, 3 people dancing, laughing, connected by something stronger than blood or money or social standing. And when it appeared in the Times the next week, the caption would read, "Eleanor Winters, CEO of Winters Development, dances with son Benjamin and new daughter-in-law Madison at Rainbow Room reception." But they wouldn't capture what really mattered. The moment Madison introduced me to her father, saying, "Dad, you need to meet the woman who saved your job last year." Or Ben's face when we told him about the house. Or the way Madison's sorority sisters suddenly remembered urgent appointments when they realized who I was. They say you can't choose your family. But sometimes, if you're very lucky, your family chooses you. And standing there in my own building, surrounded by my own flowers, holding the hands of my son and the daughter I'd just gained, I knew I'd chosen well. Even if she had called me a nobody's mother. Especially because she'd called me a nobody's mother. After all, the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's revelation. And Madison Winters, née Preston, had just learned that lesson in the most unforgettable way possible. As for those connections she'd wanted, well, she had them now. All $300,000 worth.